The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session, and before I hand over the floor to the defense counsel for Mr. Kilsumpon, the chamber wishes to inquire the defense team whether you have many more questions to be asked, because today is Friday, and we will have to be able to estimate the time needed to put the questions and the arrangement for the transportation for the witness back to Phnom Penh.
I think we'll be done by 4 p.m. or even earlier, Mr. President, but at the very latest at 4 p.m.
The President, thank you. And now you may proceed with your examination.
Monsieur Pechim.
Mr. Pechim, yesterday you referred to work plans in your district. You explained that between 1975 and 1979, the work sites that were established in your district were established at the initiative of the district with the approval of the sector level. My question to you is as follows. Did the sector officials visit the site of the work sites before approving them? And did they rely on your proposals and the experience you had with regard to the proposals you made for the establishment of the work sites?
Je vais reposer.
Let me repeat my question, sir.
Ask the question.
Lorsqu'il y avait
Whenever there were plans to establish work sites in your district, were such works or work plans, as you said yesterday, proposed by the district? Was it the district that took the initiative to establish such work sites?
The President, Counsel, please put your question to the witness again. It appears that the battery of the witness headset was gone just now.
entre 1960
Between 1975 and 1979, work sites established in your district, were they established at the initial proposal of the district level
It was the direction under the direction of the district. We consult among the district committee, and then once we agreed, we decided to implement it. But of course, it was in line with the direction of the zone. For example, they would advise on the construction of a dam, then we would locate the appropriate place to construct that dam. And we would take out the map, if any, then we would consult among each other on the shape and the general specificity of the dam. So again, it was not the sole decision of the district, but it was the collective decision of the zone together with the district.
Et pour reprendre votre exemple, une fois que le district avait décidé de l'emplacement d'un barrage, est-ce que la zone ou la région se déplaçait sur place pour vérifier, ou est-ce qu'elle faisait confiance à la décision qui avait été prise au niveau du district?
When that happened, did they send someone on the ground to verify, or just relied on the proposal of the district?
Yes, that was correct. Under the guidance of the zone, then we would locate the place, and then once we agreed on the place to construct the dam, we would show them to the area, and then once we got the approval, then we would implement the construction.
Merci, Monsieur le témoin.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I'll move into another area of questioning regarding the circulation of envelopes, either closed or open, between the Krangta Chan Security Center, the district office, and the regional office. I'll start by summing up what you said regarding the circulation of such envelopes. So if I understand your statement correctly, you explained that closed envelopes containing the list of detainees at Krangta Chan would leave the security center and were sent to the district office. You didn't open them, and you forwarded them to the regional office, which would then open them and decide as to the fate of the detainees at Krangta Chan. It would put the documents in an envelope, seal the envelope, and send it to you so that you would then forward the said envelopes to Krangta Chan. Have I properly summed up the description you gave of the sealed envelopes and the itinerary of the sealed envelopes from Krangta Chan?
The envelope sent from Krangta Chan, sometimes actually it was not sent through Krangta Chan. It was sent directly to the regional department office, but sometimes it was sent through 105. if it relates to Tramka, then it would send through Tramka. But if it relates to Trang or Kirivung, then it did not send through that. So that was the procedure. If it relates to Tramka and Tramka's people, then it would be sent through Tramka. And if there was anything that we could protest, then we would, but we had to be backed up by the reasons and proper justification. Otherwise, we would dare protest.
Merci pour cette précision.
Thank you for this clarification, sir. I would like to remind you in passing of your statement to the OCIJ investigators, 19th of June 2014. The reference is E319.1.18, and it is question and answer number 86. So I'll read the question and answer. Free translation. In principle, the powers of a district secretary covered all security problems, the security centers, the arrests, and all work sites in the district. Is that the case? Answer. They did not have the powers to arrest people. However, they could put in place security measures and resolve problems to make sure there were no traitors. The security centers came under the jurisdiction of the regional officials of the party. The district secretary was in charge of propaganda, education, and food supply. He was also in charge of resolving the daily problems of the inhabitants, eliminating traitors, and mobilizing forces to fight against the enemy. End of quote. Free translation. My question to you is as follows. Eliminating traitors. In this answer you've given regarding the definition of your role as district secretary, what does that mean practically? Eliminating traitors. What did you mean by that?
Let me clarify. That was the instruction of the front, and it was the instruction of the district. I could not explain any further, so we try to re-educate them, and if they had the conflict, we would try to compromise and mediate the conflict, and we had to rebuild our solidarity. That was the role of the district committee chair. So that was our role, and I did not do anything further than that.
Donc, quand vous avez...
So when you responded to the investigators saying that your role was to suppress traitors, you meant that they had to be re-educated? Is that what you meant, sir?
That was the role of the district. That was the role of the party. They had to take the firm control and responsibility of that in line of part of the party. And we only had the right to propose, but the overall decision was decided by the party representative. That was the Revolutionary Party line. So the party representative would take control of everything in the leadership. And for the committee, we were only entitled to propose, but the decision was up to the party representative, and we would propose that to the party representative at the sector, and then they would forward it to the decision of the party representative at the zone level.
D'accord, au niveau de la zone.
Very well. I was going to say that you yourself were a member of the party, unless I am mistaken. We have on record the statement of a witness, that is TCW 822. That witness was examined and referred to you, and he said under Democratic Cambodia you had a nickname, and you were nicknamed the Master of Death. Do you know of the existence of that nickname?
That I do not know. I did not understand what they described, but we were very careful in implementing our responsibility and duties. We had to avoid from being too harsh, too cruel. But I did not know what people would describe that, because that was the words of people. There were tens of thousands of people. They would speak differently of different situations. Maybe tens of thousands of people like it, but 1,000 or 2,000 people did not like it, and there were more than 250,000 people in Tramka district. So whatever they said, whatever they commented, it was up to them. I do not want to elaborate on. I was not resented with what they would describe it.
Est-ce que
This is a proposition I'm making to you, sir. Is it possible to imagine that to avoid having to assume your real responsibilities as the Secretary of Tramkok District in terms of suppressing or eliminating traitors, you reverted the responsibility to the superiors at the level of the region, or the regional level, which was above the district level?
That was not correct. That was emanating from the war, and it was natural. It was the natural occurrence. A natural occurrence. Nobody established it, and they named me as the master of this. So it was up to them, and I myself knew it very well that I did not do that. I followed the instruction. I followed the party line. That's what my role. I did it. I was with them, so I could not excuse myself. I had to do as per the instruction. But I did not put the blame on the sector. That is not my intention.
Je n'ai pas d'autres questions, Monsieur le Président.
I have no further questions, Mr. President.
The President, thank you. And Judge Lavange, you may proceed, please.
Juste pour les besoins du transcrit.
For the record, Mr. Vekan, can you please give us a reference of the document containing the expression Maître de la mort, Master of Death? Can you give us the reference of that document, please?
Je vais les trouver pendant le...
I'll look for the reference while my colleague is putting questions to the witness, and I'll give it to you after the hearing.
The President, thank you. And Counsel Kongsamon, you may proceed. Counsel Kongsamon. Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon to all. Mr. Pitcham, I have only a few questions to ask you. You responded to some questions on the 22nd of April in relation to your role. And in responding to that question, you said that you was a member of the district committee and you were the one of the five members, and your rank at that time was equivalent to the district governor now. So I would like you to enlighten the court in relation to the second, third, fourth, and fifth in the committee. What was their rank at that time following the liberation in 1975? Response. The second person was the party representative, and the third one was the party representative as well, responsible for the mass. So these were very important people. Correct interpreter, the first, second, and the third was post. Post was designated by the sector. And he was representative of the district party. And the fourth one was responsible for military affairs. And then the fifth one was myself. I was responsible for economic affairs. And I only came to join the team only later on. So the front was at the frontier. So the parties had the powers at that time in the district committee.
Look at
Counsel, thank you. Can you elaborate further as for Paul, who was a member then? What was his responsibility and duty then? Response. Portier was in charge of women affairs. He alone could not control all the affairs. That's why Post assisted him. At that time, for women, it was for women for the entire province. So he was responsible for that. Question. And you once became the secretary of the district committee. Were there any changes when you were members of the district committee and when you later became the secretary of the district? There were only changes after I left already. Actually, there was a change after I left already. Council. The changes I am talking about here is the restructure on the responsibility of between the secretary and member of the district committee, for example, in relation to the appointment and designation of people. Were there any changes of responsibility under the district at the time? Response: I do not understand your question. I do not quite understand it. What do you really want to know specifically? Can you please be precise and succinct? Counsel: I just would like you to compare your role and responsibility when you were a member of the district committee and then when you later became the secretary of the committee. What was the differences and similarities of your roles and responsibility in the two positions you held? Response: there was no differences. When I left that, I was responsible for the party affairs, but then my place was not taken over by anybody else in economic affairs. So even if I assumed the new role for the party, but I was also responsible for economic affairs. I took care of the construction of dam and the rice production. The party did not send anybody else to take the place in economic affairs, but we delegated it to the commune, and commune had to take care of the rice production and meeting the target expected. But in terms of the differences, there was no differences, but it was only an additional responsibility, additional burden on me when I assumed the new role.
Counsel, thank you. Regarding your experience as the district chief or district secretary of Tramco district during the decay period, did you ever involved in solving issues, practical issues in your area? For instance, on the solution to food shortage or food issue, what was your actual solution to that matter? Answer: yes, I resolved many food issues. I myself did not make a decision in solving those issues. Usually we the district committee, would call the commune secretary to meet us to discuss the issues they had, whatever they needed or whatever they could offer the district, for instance. So the issues we discussed and dealt directly with the concerned commune. Counsel, thank you. Can you provide the court an example of a practical solution which was a concern of the commune and which was brought to your attention at the district level and that you resolve it? Answer: as I said, we resolved many issues. and I cannot recall a particular instance. We resolved all kinds of issues for the sake of the people in our district and cooperative. We usually deal with the issues of the living condition of the people in the cooperative. As for the clothing was provided by the party. So, upon the necessity, we would make a proposal to the upper echelon for certain clothing through a specific unit, for example, a female unit or a male unit. In one instance, we attended a meeting at the sector level, and we were told that they had clothes and that we could obtain it and we could distribute it to our people. So at that time, I personally would sit on my leg and get the clothes as a sign of respect to the upper level, and everybody did the same. That is just an example for you. Council, thank you. In relation to a healthcare issue, did you ever receive a request from a hospital or a healthcare unit for medicine, and that you had to make a further request to the upper echelon to obtain it? Answer. On the issue of food, of medicine supply, and yes, I recall it. Sometimes we made a request to the people in Phnom Penh, and sometimes we received some of the medicines that we request, for instance, from Hospital 22, and then we will distribute those medicine to the hospitals located in various communes and in some mobile treatment units, and that happened after the country had been liberated. And sometimes we obtained some serums for the injection of the patients, and it was locally produced. However, it was rather effective as the patients recovered from their illness. So, in short, we could resolve the healthcare issue. As for the medics, usually they would carry that kind of serum in a bottle with them when they went to various locations within the area for the treatment. And sometimes they made a joke about that serum that old people ask the younger children to go and get that juice to drink, as it looks like it was an orange juice, but in fact it was a serum. Council, thank you. Regarding the need of the people in your district, comparing to the available medicine supply, what was the difference or the gap? Was the medicinal supply sufficient for the need? Answer. The medicines that we obtained, though was not in surplus, it would have resolved the situation to a certain extent. As after the country was liberated, we could obtain some medicine for the treatment of the people in the district. And some people who had their children living in mobile units elsewhere or in Phnom Penh, they could send through their parents or relatives living in my district in terms of clothing and some medicines. Council, thank you. Besides the medicine supplied that you received from Phnom Penh, was there any other source of a supply? Answer. And also I received some medicine from Tamok, but allow me to say Tamok also obtained it from Phnom Penh. Council, thank you. Did you make any arrangements to purchase medicines from overseas, for instance from Vietnam? Answer, no, I did not. We did not make that arrangement. Council, thank you. On a matter of security, did you ever receive any person who came to seek your help that his or her relative had been arrested and that the request was for the release? Answer, yes. Some people only dare to come to approach me. They did not dare to approach Com directly. Usually they would approach me and ask me to take them to see Com. However, the end result varied, as some people could be released while others could not. And I mentioned that in details during my testimony. If it was reasonable that the person shall be released, and if the person who came to seek the release was reasonable, then we would decide to release that person. We listen to their reasons for their request, and we consider them. And upon the release of their relatives, we would advise them to engage in a productive manner. So usually I was approached a lot on this matter. As for people in Trump court, usually they talk about new, and they say that new should not be mean, and that new should be as good as myself. That is me. Council, thank you. On the issue of making an arrest of anyone in your district, was the arrest initiated directly at the base level, or was an authorization or order came from another level? answer. I have spoken quite in details on this issue. Counsel interrupts. Can you tell the chamber in terms of the percentage of the arrest in your capacity as a district secretary or district committee? Was orders for the arrest issued mostly at your level, at your lower level, or at your upper level? Answer. I knew when I came to work at the office and when I was an interim district secretary. In fact, when I was there were fewer cases of arrest. I tried to avoid people being arrested. Usually, I would try to resolve the matters as much as I could. For example, when the conflicts arose, I would not believe what I was told yet. Then, I would be asked to go and make an inquiry on the matter, and I would discover that in fact the issue came from a minor conflict of certain individuals, and I made that report to my superior, and then there was no case of the arrest at all. Counsel. So, what would be your estimate on the number of arrests arising from minor conflicts? Answer. They were very few. Mostly, for those who had conflicts, they would not be arrested or detained. We would go down to the best and we would educate them. And education here means that we advise them briefly, to the point, on the spot, and that they should learn to live with each other and to compromise. So to respond to your questions, there were only a handful of cases. And I meant it could be 10 to 20% of all the matters. Counsel, thank you. And on the issue of theft, for example, stealing food or stealing coconut, did you yourself involve in resolving this kind of issue? Answer. On the issue of stealing fruit or stealing a chicken or stealing rice, I heard about that during the meetings, and I would advise the commune chiefs to resolve the matters at their respective communes. And if people stole because they did not have enough food to eat, then I would advise them so. And of course, I myself did not personally involve in making that decision. It was a joint decision by the chairperson of the district party and the district committee. And if the people involved are living nearby, then they will be called to meet us we listened to the problems and we would advise them not to do it again. Counsel, were there arrests that you could not resolve and that those people had to be sent to the detention center or prison? Here I refer to the nature of the arrest as stealing food or stealing chicken or stealing rice. Answer, no, there was none. People who stole fruit or who stole food was not sent to be detained. Counsel, thank you. Mr. Witness, I don't have any further question for you. And allow me to read the ERN as requested by Judge Lavange. The French ERN is 0109 3760. The English ERN is 01050219. And the Khmer ERN is 00968938. And the document number is E305/13.23.451. Thank you. President, thank you, Counsel. On. The hearing will adjourn today. What is on your mind, Mr. Deputy Co-Prosecutor?
Mr. President, I have a request to the Chamber and relate before this witness is excused. This is the first time in 2 years I've asked for this, but a major inconsistency has emerged between the testimony of this witness during my examination and questions from Judge Laverne and questions from counsel. I'm not asking for myself to engage in re-examination, but I would like to request the Chamber to ask a couple of questions of this witness to clarify this matter. What I'm referring to is that during my questioning and Judge Laverne's, this witness testified that there was an instruction from the sector chief to purge the enemy officers, which instruction was then conveyed by District Chief Com at the meeting. Today, we heard that there was an instruction from Tamak that at least certain ranks were not to be harmed. I note the witness said that that was the instruction. He used the words "at the time." This is a fundamental issue here, and I believe that before this witness is excused, it would be beneficial to all of us for the Chamber to ask a few questions to clarify the witness's testimony with respect to there being these two different instructions, particularly in view of there being hundreds of documents from Tramcock recording the arrests of lieutenants and ranking officers. So that is my request, that the Chamber put a couple of questions to the witness to try to clarify this matter.
President, the Chamber will grant the prosecution 5 more minutes to put questions to clarify the issue. and the defense teams will be afforded the same time, that is 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, you heard a little of what I just said. The reason I'm on my feet now is we've heard two pieces of significant testimony from you in regards to what happened to Law Nol officers. You told me, and you told Judge Laverne, that there was an instruction from Sector Chief Saum relating to the purges of officers, and that when we asked you about evidence that had been provided about a district meeting, you confirmed that YACOM had conveyed the instructions regarding purges of officers. You were also shown a number of documents from Tramcock relating to the arrests of Law Nol officers. This morning, you were asked by counsel about a meeting that another witness had testified to, and you described a meeting with Tamok where he gave an instruction relating to certain ranks of officers indicating that they were not to be harmed. You indicated the words you used were, that was the instructions at the time. Can you please clarify for us your testimony on this? How is it, as you've acknowledged, that Law Nol officers were executed, and why is it that YACOM conveyed an order to purge enemy officers in view of your testimony regarding the meeting with Tamok?
Allow me to clarify that that was the regulations, and the regulations we set down from Tamok to the sector and the sector to YACOM, and that was the chain of command, and that's how it worked. As the waterfall, it falls from the height down to the lower part.
We understand that the instructions came from above, Mr. Witness. What I'm trying to figure out is how do you explain these two different instructions? Was there a point in time where the instructions changed and the policy became to purge enemy officers? And if so, when was it that occurred?
I do not fully understand your question, so it is rather confusing for me, and I think I have spoken in details on this issue. President interrupts. Mr. Witness, you have provided contradictory statements, and that is why we are seeking clarification from you, so that you can explain to us the reasons for the discrepancies, and what you have just spoken, even in the Khmer language, is difficult to understand. It is not a matter of interpretation, it is a matter of the statement that you made. which is rather confusing. And of course, Mr. Witness, you were reminded at the beginning of your testimony that you have the obligation to only tell the truth. And Mr. Deputy Co-Prosecutor, please repeat your last question.
The question is fairly straightforward. If it is true, as you said this morning, that Tamok gave an instruction not to harm officers between certain ranks, if that is true, why is it that Sector Secretary Sohm instructed Yacom and Yacom instructed the district and commune chiefs to purge enemy officers? Did the instructions change at some point?
Sooner or later, they would know about those people, and of course they knew about that after the 17th April date. Com convened a meeting after that to raise the matter and what we had to do as to the ranks or the range of ranks of those former officers, and that happened after the 17th April. And of course, Com received instruction from him. It's from Tamok.
Let me just try one more time, slightly different way. I gave you two large documents during my questioning, E34095 and E32107. These are two notebooks that came from Krang Tachan that cover a number of months in 1976. In one of these books, there are 105 prisoners who are reported. That's E34095. In E32107, which covers the period of December 76 to January 77, there are 90 people listed as being arrested and interrogated. The majority of these people, Mr. Chim, are former Lon Nol soldiers or officers. Was the district deciding itself to arrest these people, or was it making this decision pursuant to instructions from the upper echelon?
President Witness, please wait, and Council Kong-Som-on, you have the floor. The greffier, could you liaise the information to the General Service section that they should delay the buses? Council Kong-Som-on, from what I heard, that the chamber granted the prosecution 5 minutes, and I think the time ran out. And I believe the statements made by the witness, despite the discrepancies, the chamber has no obligation to make sure that his or her statements are consistent. That is the discretion of the chamber as to which statement is credible and which is not. And if we are granted time to verify the discrepancies, I don't think this is a way forward. President Witness, please respond to the question. witness. Sometimes I am afraid my statements are mixed up, as I have been bombarded with many questions. And maybe I gave two responses to the same question. So I believe that is Your Honor's discretion to judge my statements. And of course, my recollection is not that great. President, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, please finalize your question as the time is running out, and maybe the defense will also use the same time.
Yes, I just have one question if the witness will answer. Mr. Petch-Chim, you said at the start of these proceedings that you wanted to tell the truth. There are records of hundreds of arrests of Lon Nol officers. My question to you is simple. Is this something that the district was instructed to do by Sector Chief Saum?
There were two phases. When Com convened the meeting, I knew we received the instruction from the sector. I learned from Com. In that meeting, there was the record of the meeting, and then they decided along the line of the direction of the sector. That is to the best of my recollection. As for the arrest and the number of people to be arrested, I did not witness the arrest, and I did not see the implementation, and I myself did not carry out the arrest, and I never issue any instruction to the commune to carry out the arrest.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask more questions. I appreciate the time.
President, I would now like to turn to the defense counsels. Do you have any questions to ask for clarification?
No, Mr. President, we don't have any questions. I think the answers of the witness were crystal clear.
As for the defense counsel for Mr. Kilsumpon, we do not have any further question, Mr. President. The President. Thank you. The hearing is now coming to an end, and the hearing shall adjourn now and resume on Monday next week, and we will hear the key documents relating to Krang Tachan Security Center. So the Chamber invites all parties to attend the hearing. And Mr. Petch-Chim, we thank you very much for taking time to answer to the questions put by the parties in the Chamber. Your testimony is very crucial to ascertaining the truth. So your testimony is coming to an end now, so you are excused from the courtroom. You may go to your own place. And Duty Counsel, we thank you, Mr. Meung Sawan, for accompanying the witness. Court officer, please facilitate the transfer of Mr. Petch-Chim with the witness support section. And security guards are instructed to bring the co-accused, Mr. Nguyen Chia and Mr. Kilsumpon, back to the detention facility and have them back in this courtroom on the 27th of April 2015 before 9 a.m.